Okay. Before the video starts, I'm going to be straight. My audio sounds absolutely trash throughout this whole thing. My fault. I didn't set my level properly. What Tim has to say is great, awesome. You should listen to it. It's a great video. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. Tim is 600 miles away. I can't really refilm it. So I'm sorry. We try to fix as much as we can. Enjoy what Tim has to say. It's awesome. Go check it out. Welcome to Blackbar. Thanks so much for the Patreons who helped make this video possible. If you want to learn how to support the channel, check out the link in the description below.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Blackbar. I am not in my normal set today, nor am I alone. I am actually visiting my alma mater, University of Valley Forge, with Tim Jackson.
Happy to have this guy here.
Yeah, who's a professor at Valley Forge, also one of my graduating class fellow students.
I was once your RA, believe it or not.
Yes, and you let me get away with a lot more than I think I should have.
I didn't see Caleb too much.
Playing World of Warcraft for the most part. Yeah. But we're in the University of Valley Forge digital media, was it the recording suite?
So this is our broadcast studio, is what we've officially called it.
Yeah.
And this is where we do chapel pretty much every single day of the week. And so 4 days out of the week, we're up here with a team of 10 to 12 students who are running these different positions and cameras downstairs, and we're producing the live stream that this year has been broadcast to the different dorm rooms and different places around campus, so that we can obviously abide by social distancing.
Right. So although it is a school, it functions very similar to what most churches are doing from a live production standpoint. And being that the chapel in a lot of ways are just mini church services.
Yeah, they are.
Every single day of the weekday. The students here get a lot of practice running what we want to do every single week on a Sunday. So what I thought would be valuable is running through the setup and the team that they have here and the positions that they have. Talk about the motivation behind the gear decisions that were made, as well as the positions that are here, and kind of how, when you have as many people as you need, what is it that you can do?
Yeah, when you have built-in volunteers.
Right, that need to do it for a grade.
Yes, absolutely. That is definitely one of the perks about being an educational institution, is that built-in, right?
Right.
Because I also serve at my local church, and that is a huge thing. It's finding the right people with the right time and the right heart to want to serve on a weekly basis. So here at University Valley Forge, some of the, I'll just take you through the run, kind of like what we have up here in the studio.
Yeah.
So first of all, there is a producer, and this is either myself or actually we've been empowering students to take on that role. And so actually the man behind the camera today, Jacob, he's often our producer, who it's his job to do the scheduling and make sure that he's connecting with our administrative team to make sure that every single chapel is flowing smoothly. We use Planning Center, which I'm sure most churches are watching, probably use that or some type of software like that to schedule and make run sheets every single week. I think that's so important, just making sure that those are up to date and those are real. Because last minute things are always going to come into place.
Sure.
So it's the producer's role to make sure everyone's on the same page, making sure that all the assets are loaded, making sure camera operators are in place, that sort of thing.
In regards to a producer, come Sunday morning for you every day.
For sure, yeah.
Where are they sitting and what are they doing?
Yeah, for me and for what we do here, the producer is actually sitting kind of right where I am if I were to spin 90 degrees here at this station. And basically we have a setup here that they can see all of the camera angles and they can help call some important things. Now they don't step on the director's toes because we want to have the director gain that experience of calling camera shots, but really it's the producer's role to make sure everything flows smoothly from one thing to the next, right? So for a church service, this might be calling the opening video, or it might be calling the first camera shot that we're going to fade into, or it might be saying, hey, we're going to fade out of the pre-service music and go to some bumper, right? So it's really the producer's role to help flow through the order of service. Now the little nitty gritty, which camera do you go to, or downstream key for lyrics, those sorts of things which we'll talk about, that's the director's role. And so they'll work in tandem to make sure those things are taken care of.
Gotcha. So the director's more focused on specifically directing the camera people, getting very specific stuff, and the producer producer's looking at the whole big picture,
Absolutely.
make sure all the gears are oiled, making it happen.
Absolutely.
Cool.
They're also the ones behind the scenes before service, making sure, we put that on the camera operators too to make sure their cameras are looking good, but like the producer comes in before everyone else and just makes sure things are up and running and that all systems are fired.
Cool. And if anything goes wrong, the buck stops there.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so next on the list would be?
I believe it would be the director. So this person is the one who's communicating the different camera shots, the different angles, really, like you guys say on Blackbar often, is telling the story, right? Even in live production, like we can sometimes get so caught up in, well, we don't have really a script or like a cue by cue, and some churches do that, right? They maybe for a special service, you really have things laid out, but the director is communicating the vision of the service, the vision of what that day is, and is really trying to communicate steps in advance. The best directors are not the reactive directors, but the proactive ones.
Definitely.
Right? So they're thinking of things well in advance, 3 or 4 measures before it happens. If there's a guitar solo or if someone's coming up on stage, they're not reacting to what's happening. Sometimes you have to.
Sure.
It's live.
So stuff always happens.
That's kind of the nature of live production. But really, the more proactive you can be, the better.
Sure.
And the more calm everything is.
Absolutely.
We've had some people up here, myself included, where if you become very reactive, that's when tensions start to build.
Definitely.
That's where people start not liking volunteering very much.
Absolutely.
So that would be the director's role. So they're the main ones who are talking on comms, making sure everyone is on board with what the producer is saying needs to happen next, and executing with excellence.
Cool. All right, so after the director would be?
The right-hand man of the director or woman would be our shader, right? Some people might call this the assistant director, like if that person has like the cue sheet in front of them, like helping the director kind of figure out who's leading a song or whatnot. But for us up here, we have a shader. Okay. And so with our cameras, and maybe your cameras have this, maybe they don't, and it's fine either way, but our cameras have the ability to do live shading. And all that means is the brightness of the cameras, the color, or the look of the cameras, that can all be changed in real time through what's right behind you actually, is our CCU controls, so our camera control units. All of our cameras downstairs have a fiber connection, and so that provides power, comm, data, the viewfinder, a return, like a whole bunch of things.
Right.
And so our shader is really important to make sure everything looks correct.
Gotcha. So instead of that being on the hands of the cameramen who are just trying to figure out how to pull a shot and make sure focus is in.
Exactly.
You got a different person making sure the exposure is good and skin tone's right and all that.
Yeah, and we all have those churches that we know of, or maybe it's your church where you are, you have 8 hands on Sunday and you're trying to do everything. I've been in that position too. It does give a big sigh of relief when you can start delegating and you start having those positions that they're dedicated, focusing on those one thing. Not saying you can't do it by yourself, but up here that's what we have.
Sure.
Yeah, and then after our shader, I would say the next position, even though I'm kind of like jumping around a little bit, is over to my left would be where our graphics operator sits. Most churches use Pro Presenter. Maybe you're using Easy Worship. Maybe you're using something else, and that's okay. But we use Pro Presenter, and so they're the ones who are firing our lyrics, they're firing our videos, they're firing graphics, whatever. And so that person, again, is listening to the producer who's making sure that the right thing is up on the screen at the right time.
Cool.
Yeah. Then moving on, we have a broadcast audio engineer who is way off in the corner over there, kind of by themselves. Is it the best place for them? No, but in this space, because acoustically, I'm sure you're like, hold on, wait a second.
Right.
But that's what we have, and that's okay.
Yep.
We're still learning too, over there. But yeah, we have a separate broadcast audio mix, and so that we can really dial in the live stream audio versus the front of house mix.
Right.
Some churches, you might not have the budget to do that, and that's okay. You guys actually brought this up in a recent episode,
Definitely.
I believe. But having a separate audio mix is really important if you really want to dial in that live stream audio. And for us here at UVF, it's another place where a student can learn. Really, that's what all these positions are. It's like students can learn here.
Absolutely.
Right? If we only had one person doing it all, that would take away from the experience that other students could get.
I think one thing that's cool, it's interesting that I learned while I was here, is it's not necessarily intuitive, but there's also a screen over there monitor
Yeah.
to see what's going on the live stream.
Yeah.
Because whatever is happening on stage, a lot of times you want to make sure the mix is reflecting whatever it is that we're seeing, whatever it is that's going on. Even seeing someone coming and taking the stage you weren't necessarily expecting, making sure that the mic is on or
Yes.
whatever. So it's not necessarily something you would think of when setting up a remote audio suite, but having video to that station is very helpful.
Absolutely, and in our setup, we actually have just a stationary feed that goes to that screen. We call it the eye in the sky.
Gotcha.
Because most often, like if we're mixing for iMag, which is just the feed in the room, sometimes we're on a really tight shot. And the audio guy can't see if someone's sneaking up on stage.
Right, sure.
And so we typically give our audio guy or gal a wide shot so that they can kind of see the whole stage and it's not changing on them constantly.
Gotcha.
Or is there some benefit to them seeing what is actually on the live stream? Of course, because like you said, you can maybe push that guitar a little bit more, or push that drum set a little bit more. But for us, they get to see everything on stage all the time.
Right.
So we find that really beneficial.
Cool.
And then our last position up here is our, we call them our WEBCAST tech. Still thinking of a new name for that, to be honest.
It's a little old.
Outdated.
Yeah.
And so basically our live stream person, right? They are monitoring, and obviously that's super important nowadays, and it always has been. But for our live stream person, we use Wirecast.
Cool.
Maybe your church uses OBS. Maybe you use Resi or something from Livestream, Vimeo, something like that. It's all this, not all the same, but just one of the ways to do it. Would I use a different program or hardware or software if we were given it? Of course. Because honestly, we don't use it to the fullest extent. We kind of just hit go live and we don't really touch it because everything's being directed.
Sure.
Right? Maybe your church, you're bringing in maybe a different graphics or something because you don't have screens in the room, and maybe your live stream is your only system where it's going, and you might need to use it a little bit more fully. But yeah, so that's where our live stream operator sits.
So why don't we talk about the role that isn't in the booth when it comes to live stream, the cameramen who are standing out there.
Yeah, cameramen and women are definitely our eyes up here.
Sure.
Figuratively and literally. So if they're just pointing at a wall, that's all we will see. So,
yeah, great.
So really, it's it's the director's job to help them get all on the same page. There have been moments where I'm up here watching our students and I will see two of the cameras literally doing the same exact shot.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, rather than having 4 cameras right now, guys, we have 3, right? Let's try to use them more appropriately. And so the director is giving direction to the camera operators, making sure that the different elements on stage are being revealed. If there's a drum solo or a lead line from electric guitar or keys, they're going to go to that, and the director is going to let them know who's live. The camera operators, the one thing I can tell you is great camera operators also have a feel for the music and tempo.
Definitely.
And I think as a camera operator, don't just rely on your director to tell you what to do.
Absolutely.
Right? The best camera operators are also proactive. They're not just reactive, right? So they're thinking about what's coming up next. How can I help my director set up a next shot?
Absolutely.
So be creative. Being a camera operator, you have a lot less stress than the director. You're focusing on one thing. So use that to your advantage.
And I think it's also advantageous, especially if your worship team is one that has a lot of the stuff planned out before, getting the music to the camera operators before. Obviously they're not playing an instrument, but knowing like, hey, that guitar is about to do a solo. I need to be over there. I need to be able to see that and get there before it starts the solo so the director has the option to cut to it. That's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why we also require our directors to be here for the morning practice. So we don't require all of our camera operators because we don't want to be hated by everyone.
Sure. They're college students, right?
Exactly. We gotta let them sleep in a little.
Right.
But at least for the director and our graphics operator, they are the 2 key individuals who are here in the morning so that they can kind of get a feel for what's happening during those songs so they can be ready and they can let the camera operators know before it happens.
Definitely.
But those camera operators who are taking a more proactive step, they'll come up, or even getting them to list the songs, just even YouTube links.
Sure.
Right? Letting them listen to the songs beforehand to at least give them an idea of where the instrumental breaks are, or who has the lead line where, those sorts of things. And ultimately it's to do excellence for the kingdom of God, right?
So of the cameramen you have, I'd say there's one camera position that's maybe like slightly more special than the rest of them, because you have a very specialized piece of equipment that Nick would kill to be here and just touch.
Yes, Nick Mayo. That's all I can say. It's Nick Mayo. You guys all know Nick from Blackbar.
Right.
He, jib fanatic. This is probably one thing he probably wishes he could have. I don't know. Do you guys have one at Grand
We
Rapids?
don't. We don't.
Oh
have one
man, poor Nick. So yes, that is our jib camera, also known as a camera crane. Downstairs we have a 15-foot jib that we run during chapel. Would we have a bigger one? Yes, but would it make sense for our space? No, absolutely not. Yeah, our jib camera is definitely a specialized camera shot because it's able to get those nice big sweeping movements. You're able to also add a push and pull. You can do some parallax effect. Honestly, especially for the live stream, what I would say is even if you don't have a jib, for your live stream, find a way to help bring your audience to as if they were there.
Sure.
Right? And so sometimes with our jib, it's not always moving, but sometimes we'll just like plop it in a seat.
Sure.
And we'll just give a perspective that's totally different than something that's up on a tripod. So anytime that you can do that and bring your audience closer as if they were there, I think that's always really engaging. So the jib, a very specialized position, really fun. I mean, that's something I also grew into when I was a student here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really learned to love. And so, yeah, the jib is great.
So I think it would not be unrealistic to say that most churches aren't operating with the kind of team that you have.
Yes.
And obviously that some of them are very new to this, but just having hands on in these stations is helpful. Most of them are dealing with far fewer people on their team, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to say anything to the guy who's running this and this and this and this, right?
Yeah.
And just trying to figure out how to make it work, and any advice for them.
Yeah.
Because you're also there in the church, from my understanding, correct, the church that you attend, you're one of the only media people there. It's a smaller church, right?
Yep.
So you experience this on a mass scale, and your own just doing it all yourself on a small scale.
Yeah. Now thankfully, we only have one camera at the church that I attend, and so it's one of those Mevo cameras that you can like have the app and you can like zoom in and out or whatever.
Yeah.
So like honestly, for me, the advice that I would give to the guy or girl that you are a one-man band on Sunday and just trying to make it work, one, God bless you, and two, do everything that you can to optimize so you only have to click one button to make something work. Really, even if it takes an extra one Saturday for the month, like just trying to optimize your setup, right? For my live stream at my church, I made it so it's going to a YouTube that never changes. I literally hit go and it shows up on YouTube.
Right.
I hit go, it shows up on Facebook. Like I honestly, I probably could like write a fancy description and like put in some tags and stuff like that. But for me, that would stress me out to the max.
Sure, I imagine.
That would take me away from things. And so rather, I just have it show up, I hit go, and I have one person who's in the audience managing the live stream comments.
Sure.
Right? So that I don't have to take care of that. I make sure that in terms of my audio mix, like I literally have it all on one group. I'm not an audio guy, sorry. One group, right? So I don't have to like be flipping through all these channels. Like everything is in one layer, and so I can see everything, and I can be mixing while I'm hitting Pro Presenter slides.
Sure.
Right? I mean, if you really wanted to get super crazy, you could learn Ableton and have slides run themselves. Like,
Absolutely.
But I'm not there yet, honestly, and I just haven't had the time. So, but that is what I would encourage you. Try to optimize as much as you can with the little resources that you have. I get it, it's tough. And you know what, at the end of the day, if the gospel is going out, that's a win.
Absolutely.
Now, is it better if it looks good, sounds good? Yes, of course. So do everything that you can do to make the quality as high as you possibly can. But at the end of the day, if the gospel is still preached, you know what? You're a servant of the Lord, and that's all you can do. So,
Amen. Yeah. So if I was, let's say, like a junior or senior in high school, and this stuff is my jam, and I was looking for a place where I could spend 4 years of my life and learn all there is to know about this stuff.
Yeah.
Where would I go, Tim Jackson?
Well, I mean, you have to at least consider, if not absolutely consider, the University of Valley Forge. I'm not just saying that because Lord knows we don't have the best equipment.
Sure.
Like, you could go to some churches that have better equipment than us,
Sure.
to be honest. But I think the one thing that you're going to get here is a community of believers who we're all striving to know Jesus more. We're trying to fulfill the call that he has on our life, and we're trying to do it with excellence. You're going to get hands-on experience, so you're going to be able to do this,
Yeah.
every single day. You're going to be able to mess up and have it, you have another chance to try it again. And it's a growing experience, and it's one that you'll definitely learn from. And not only that, but as I mentioned to you, Caleb, before we started this thing, we also have our media production team.
Right.
That is an extension of what we do here in chapel on a daily basis. It's a team that serves on behalf of the university to go out and take this stuff out of the chapel and take it on the road.
Right.
We go and do conferences and big festivals and conventions and youth camps, and we do this. We've done it outside, we've done it inside, we've done it in a barn, wherever. We
Sure.
set this stuff up, and
Right.
and the more times you do it, and the more hands-on you get, you can watch all the YouTube videos you want,
Right.
and know it, but until you actually do it, get your hands on and do it and start to hone your craft, I don't think you're going to be able to do all God has called you to do.
Sure, and I would say, even as someone, I am not a live production guy. I don't know if I've made that clear, saying it 10 times in all of our videos. I'm graphic design, I do marketing, whatever. I avoided this room like the plague. It's not my thing, but I was back a student. Yeah. But University of Valley Forge also has great programs for graphic design, great programs for video production, for audio production, even for web stuff. They have a full digital media degree. It doesn't matter what flavor of nerd you are.
That's right.
There's a program for you here. So thank you, Tim, for giving us a tour around the setup and what you guys do here. And hopefully this isn't the last time we stop by.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Caleb. And thanks so much, Blackbar community.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Blackbar. If you haven't already, make sure to check out the Blackbar podcast, released every single week, where we go more into depth into the topics we talk about in these videos. In addition, if you would like to join the Blackbar volunteer team and help make content or help other struggling churches on our Discord, make sure to check out the link in the description below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.